Call of Duty Black Ops 7 has been out long enough for everyone to settle into their comfort zone with weapons, perks, and sweaty meta loadouts. But field upgrades are still that weird part of the game that can totally make or break a match. You know the feeling. You spawn in, everything's going great, and suddenly you realize your field upgrade choice is doing absolutely nothing for you. Some of them are lifesavers. Some of them feel like you're carrying a rock in your pocket, and figuring out which one actually fits your playstyle can be surprisingly tricky. But that's exactly why we're here today. In this video, we're breaking down the best field upgrades in Black Ops 7 so you can squeeze every drop of power out of your class setup and climb the scoreboard like you're meant to. Whether you're an aggressive rusher, a sneaky flanker, or that one teammate who refuses to sit still, there's a perfect upgrade waiting for you. Let's dive in and sort out which ones actually deserve a spot in your loadout. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. Mute Field is one of those field upgrades that sounds great on paper, but ends up feeling a bit underwhelming once you actually use it in Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Sure, silencing your footsteps completely can help you move around the map like a ghost, slipping behind enemies without giving away your position. But even with that benefit, it never really stands out as something you absolutely need in your loadout. It feels more like a temporary perk rather than a true game-changing upgrade. The biggest issue is that the Ninja perk already exists, and it does the same thing without forcing you to wait for your field upgrade meter to fill. With Mute Field, you spend half the match stomping around louder than a marching band until the game finally lets you activate it. And then, right when you start getting used to moving silently, it wears off. That inconsistent uptime makes it hard to rely on and even harder to justify using over something more impactful. To be fair, its overclock effect that suppresses your gunfire without needing a suppressor is a pretty cool bonus. It lets you stay hidden on the radar while still running whatever attachments you want. But as fun as that sounds, it still does not push Mute Field into the must-pick category. There are just better, more reliable field upgrades out there, and unless you really want that tiny window of silence, you are probably better off looking elsewhere in your loadout. Drone Pod is one of those field upgrades that had its moment in the spotlight, especially during the launch weeks of Call of Duty Black Ops 7. You probably remember seeing them everywhere, buzzing around the map like overly confident flying toys. But that honeymoon phase did not last long. Once players figured out the meta and perk choices started to settle, the drone pod quickly went from, "This is kind of cool," to, "Why is this even here?" The biggest problem is that almost everyone is running the cold-blooded perk now, which basically makes the drone pod blind. It cannot track most players, and even when it does manage to get a lock, the damage it deals is barely noticeable. It is hard to feel like you are making a smart tactical decision when your field upgrade is hovering in the air doing little more than intimidating absolutely no one. By the time it engages, the enemy has usually already shot it down or simply walked away. They are also incredibly easy to destroy, which makes their already low impact feel even worse. Sure, in very specific situations they can help you mark an enemy or create a tiny distraction, but those moments are rare, and the payoff is never worth the slot you are sacrificing. In a game filled with genuinely strong and reliable field upgrades, the drone pod has unfortunately become one of the least effective options you can choose. Fear Trap is one of those field upgrades that immediately grabs your attention because the concept is genuinely fun. Triggering a toxic gas mine that makes your enemy hallucinate fake opponents is the kind of chaotic idea that fits perfectly in Call of Duty Black Ops 7. The first time someone runs into it, they panic, start shooting at thin air, and you get a good laugh out of it. But once you have seen it in action once, you know exactly what is happening, and the fear factor pretty much disappears. The main issue is that it quickly becomes predictable. After you trip it the first time, you are fully aware of the visual distortion, and it stops being disorienting. Enemies learn to ignore the fake targets and focus on escaping the area instead. Even with the overclock version adding extra toxic gas damage over time, it still does not turn the fear trap into something truly threatening. It just ends up feeling like a visual gimmick that is easy to shake off. That is the real reason Fear Trap never climbs higher on any serious list. It is fun, it is creative, and it can be entertaining in casual matches, but it never brings enough impact to justify using it over more reliable field upgrades. It is one of those cool idea, not great execution tools. And honestly, maybe that is a good thing, because if this thing were any stronger, it would probably be one of the most irritating mechanics in the entire game. Scrambler is one of those field upgrades that does exactly what you expect at first glance. You drop it down and suddenly the enemy's electronics and minimap turn into a static-filled mess. It makes it harder for them to track movement, harder to predict rotations, and overall just throws a bit of chaos into the fight. In most Call of Duty titles, that would place it in the decent but forgettable category. But Black Ops 7 gives it a twist that pushes it a little higher than you might think. The real power comes from its overclock, which lets you mark enemies on your minimap while simultaneously jamming theirs. That combination is surprisingly strong. You get valuable intel, and they get absolutely nothing. It sets you up to ambush them before they even realize you are close. Sure, players running the Ghost perk will stay hidden, but that does not take away from how consistently useful Scrambler can be, especially in objective modes where teams cluster around the same zones. That is why Scrambler deserves more respect than it usually gets. In modes like Hardpoint or Domination, it can completely shift the momentum of a fight by feeding you information while stripping it away from the enemy. Pair it with the motion sensor overclock, and suddenly you are playing with a small but meaningful advantage during every engagement. It may not be flashy, but Scrambler is one of those steady, reliable field upgrades that can quietly win you more fights than you expect. Black Hat is one of the more unique field upgrades in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and it definitely earns that reputation. With this device, you can hack enemy equipment, enemy score streaks, and even enemy players. In the right hands, it becomes a threat that completely flips the flow of a match. There is nothing quite like hacking an opponent and watching them unknowingly help your team for a short moment, or turning an enemy turret into your own personal bodyguard. Things get even more interesting when you combine Black Hat with the Engineer perk and the Transmission Booster overclock. Suddenly, you can see enemy equipment and score streaks through walls, letting you hack them without ever putting yourself in danger. It becomes a perfect counter to campers who rely on gadgets and automated defenses to lock down an area. With the right setup, Black Hat feels incredibly tactical and genuinely powerful. But despite how fun and crafty it is, Black Hat still comes with a catch. It really needs the right build to shine. Without perks and overclocks that support it, the field upgrade loses a lot of its potential. That makes it harder to recommend over more straightforward, universally strong options. Still, if you enjoy playing smart, disrupting setups, and turning the enemy's own tools against them, Black Hat can be one of the most satisfying field upgrades in the entire game. Echo Unit earns its place in the top 5 because it is one of the most consistently useful field upgrades in Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Dropping a decoy soldier onto the battlefield sounds simple, but it brings a lot more value than most players expect. This clone can capture and contest objectives just like a real teammate, which makes it a huge asset in modes where every second on the point matters. And with the proximity sensor flash overclock, any enemy who wanders too close gets hit with a blinding flashbang, giving you an easy opening to capitalize on. What makes Echo Unit even better is how often players still fall for it. You would think by now everyone would recognize a decoy, but nope. People continue dumping entire magazines into it. When they do, they reveal their position instantly, and you can swoop in and punish them before they even realize what happened. It is a great mix of utility and trickery, letting you gather information, stall objectives, and bait enemies all at the same time. But the real highlight of Echo Unit is its ability to influence objective play. Being able to capture zones without physically standing there yourself gives you breathing room, forces the enemy to respond, and often buys crucial time for your team. It is not just a distraction, it actively contributes to winning games. That combination of usefulness, disruption, and pure battlefield mischief makes Echo Unit one of the most fun and reliable field upgrades you can pick. Active Camo is one of those field upgrades that can feel either absolutely unstoppable or surprisingly average, depending entirely on how you build around it. On its own, it is good, but when paired with the right perks and attachments, it becomes downright terrifying. Running Ninja, Ghost, and Cold-Blooded together. Thank you, Perk Greed. And equipping a fully suppressed weapon turns active camo into the closest thing this game has to a cheat code. With the right setup, you can move around the map like a silent shadow, picking off enemies before they even know you are there. The real game changer comes from its Recloak Overclock, which lets you reapply invisibility even after shooting your weapon. That alone pushes active camo into a completely different tier. Normally, firing a shot would break the illusion, but this overclock lets you vanish again almost immediately. You can pop in, drop an enemy, recloak, flank, repeat. In modes with chaotic lanes and heavy rotations, this level of stealth makes you nearly impossible to track or counter. The only reason active camo does not climb into the top 3 is that it is extremely dependent on having the perfect perk setup and weapon build. Without those perks active, it loses a massive chunk of its strength, and without a suppressor, you might as well be running around with a giant neon sign above your head. Even so, when everything is working together, it easily becomes one of the deadliest and most exciting field upgrades in the entire game. It absolutely deserves its spot in the top 5. Assault Pack might not be the flashiest field upgrade in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, but it earns a solid spot simply by being reliable every single time you drop it. You throw down an ammunition crate, and suddenly you and your teammates get a full refresh of ammo, lethal grenades, and tactical grenades. It is not complicated, it is not flashy, but it is the kind of tool that keeps your team in the fight longer and prevents those annoying moments where you are stuck with nothing but a pistol and regret. And honestly, we have all been there. You are on a huge score streak, dominating the lobby, and then you look down and realize your ammo counter is hanging by a thread. That panic disappears the moment you remember you have an assault pack ready to go. Or maybe you know an enemy is camping in a building, but you have already used your lethal grenade. Once again, the assault pack comes to the rescue, rearming you so you can clear the room without having to wait or respawn. That is the charm of the assault pack. It is never useless. It helps in every mode, with every class, and on every map. Whether you play aggressively, defensively, or somewhere in between, having guaranteed resources at your feet is always valuable. It may not be the most exciting field upgrade in the game, but it is absolutely one of the most dependable, and your teammates will thank you every single time you drop one. Squad Link comes in as our runner-up, and it absolutely earns that spot. This field upgrade is built for players who love pushing objectives and supporting their team. When activated, Squad Link provides a huge boost to score accumulation, improves gadget effectiveness, and strengthens just about everything your teammates do within its wide area of effect. If your playstyle revolves around team coordination, this is easily one of the strongest tools you can bring to the battlefield. Things get even more ridiculous when you pair Squad Link with its Command Relay Overdrive. This combination increases the recharge rate of your teammates' field upgrades, letting everyone get their abilities and score streaks significantly faster. Suddenly, your entire squad is dropping gadgets, calling in streaks, and overwhelming the map with utility and firepower. In modes where teamwork decides the winner, hardpoint, domination, control, Squad Link can completely tilt the balance. When used strategically, Squad Link becomes nearly unbeatable. It turns your team into a well-oiled machine while leaving the enemy struggling to keep up. You are not just giving yourself an advantage, you are amplifying your entire squad's performance at once. It might not have the flashiest effect, but in terms of raw influence on the outcome of a match, Squad Link stands among the very best field upgrades in Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Trophy System takes the crown as the best field upgrade in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and honestly, it is not even close. If you play Hardpoint, Domination, or Search and Destroy, you already know how often this little device saves your life. With explosive spam being at an all-time high, having a trophy system beside you while holding an objective can be the difference between winning the fight or being launched into orbit. It is efficient, dependable, and essential in any objective-focused loadout. The reason it stands so far above the rest is simple. Everyone has grenades, and everyone uses them constantly. Whether it is a lethal grenade tossed blindly into a doorway, or a tactical grenade thrown at every rotation. You are going to be targeted the moment you step on an objective. A trophy system instantly shuts all of that down. It blocks incoming explosives, keeps you alive long enough to secure the point, and buys your team the breathing room they need to push in and support you. And if that was not strong enough, its tighter packing overclock pushes it into a league of its own. Being able to destroy 2 extra projectiles makes the trophy system absurdly powerful during chaotic objective fights. Instead of being overwhelmed by explosive spam, you can lock down an area with confidence. It is the most reliable, impactful, and well-rounded field upgrade in the entire game, and honestly, we would not want the top spot to belong to anything else. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.